Is that good? We get it? Hi everyone, I'm Claire Saffitz. Welcome to my home kitchen. Today I have a recipe that I'm specifically showing you around the holidays because you might need to be hosting people and making them breakfast. It is a very delicious version of French toast in which I caramelize one side and it almost gets that like crackly brulee topping that you find on creme brulee. It's not too sweet, it's so delicious and actually very easy to make. I have such a weird relationship with French toast because when I was a kid, I did not enjoy eating breakfast foods, but like my sister loved it, and this was a tradition in our house to have French toast in the morning, and I would go into the fridge and eat leftovers from dinner the night before. I just wasn't that into it. I didn't really appreciate like the egginess. But now as an adult, I have a totally different attitude about it. And so this is sort of like my grown-up version of French toast that I really, really love. I feel like maybe my method of cooking it this very particular way is maybe slightly proprietary, but this is a version of a dish that exists in many different places. I mean, basically, French toast is a way to like stretch stale bread and make it super delicious. So that's what we're doing here. Except for this bread's not stale, which is kind of a problem, but we'll talk about that.
How do you make it? You're gonna toast it?
I'm gonna toast it. So I have some whole milk, some heavy cream, granulated sugar, pinch of salt, a little unsalted butter for cooking. I have 4 whole eggs plus 2 yolks. So this is sort of a rich, very yolky recipe. I have some spices here that I'm gonna add. I have a little bit of cinnamon and just a tiny pinch of nutmeg. Nutmeg for the holidays, it's gonna really like perfume the whole thing but be subtle because nutmeg is really strong. Some vanilla extract for the custard and then maple syrup for serving. So like super, super easy. Oh, and then I forgot the bread. So I'm using challah. I have 4 slices of like very thick cut, actually 2 really big slices that I cut in half, but you could definitely use brioche. Any kind of enriched bread that's soft is good for this. And again, day old. For cooking the French toast, I have my Made In carbon steel griddle behind me. That's gonna go over 2 burners. And it's great for making French toast because, especially if you're using full-size pieces of bread, you can fit everything on there at the same time and then there's no like batching your French toast, especially if you're cooking for a group. Before I get into the recipe, I want to thank our great friends at Made In for sponsoring this episode. Made In is the maker of this carbon steel griddle, as well as a full line of carbon steel cookware and stainless. And what I love about this griddle is that carbon steel is lightweight, it's lighter than cast iron, but it has the same even heating properties. It heats up and cools down really quickly. I love that it's easy to maneuver, and best of all, it's perfect for cooking for a crowd. If this year you're having friends and family in town and there's the pressure to cook for them, the griddle makes it so easy. You can prepare a full breakfast for everyone. It goes over 2 burners. I have induction and it heats so evenly, but I've also brought it outside, cooked over live fire, and it's also compatible, of course, with gas and electric. So it's incredibly versatile, easy to take care of, and just a thing that I'm always reaching for.
What's going on here?
Making breakfast sandwiches.
I know, but did you make that sausage?
Yeah, hello.
Oh my God.
You can see that it's developed a nice patina and it's naturally non-stick. So check out the link in the description below. You can learn more about the griddle, the entire line of carbon steel, and save on your order. All of the cookware from Made In makes a fantastic gift, and also just stock up on your own collection for baking for this holiday season. So I love the carbon steel griddle. I hope you take a look, and thank you so much to Made In for sponsoring the episode. Back to the recipe. I do think it's better and superior to use stale bread. And if the bread were truly stale, I would probably cut the crusts off, but this is a fresh loaf of challah. So instead I'm gonna toast it. And even if it were stale, I would still toast it because I like the flavor that you get from both sides of the bread being toasted. It would just toast faster because it would be more dry. One note, if you're using fresh bread like I am and you're gonna toast it, just know that it's gonna be more delicate. It's not gonna hold together as easily or as firmly as stale bread, so just be more careful when you're like moving around the slices. It's much easier to flip a smaller piece like this. I just made them thick. I made thick slices, like 1 1/4 inch, because I think it's better to have the thickness and just like the smaller surface for flipping and transferring and moving them around, especially because I know they're gonna be delicate. I want it to dehydrate, which it will as it toasts. I just want it to be like a pretty even medium golden brown on both sides. So while that's toasting, I'm gonna make my custard. When I say custard, I don't mean like pudding. I just mean a mixture of basically dairy and eggs. So I'm gonna start with my eggs. I have 4 whole large eggs plus 2 yolks. Then I'm gonna add a half a cup each, whole milk and heavy cream. You could just use a cup, half and half. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. If you wanted to, you could add like a little bit of rum or something. It is breakfast. Then I'm gonna add that cinnamon and nutmeg. Usually I actually don't put any kind of spice in it, but for the holidays, it's like a little bit of cinnamon. And the cinnamon also telegraphs sweetness in a way, and the little bit of nutmeg I think is very welcome. So I'm just gonna add a big pinch of salt also. So the reason I'm not adding sugar to this is because I'm gonna caramelize the surfaces. So I'm gonna be adding sugar to the outside of the French toast, and I don't want it to be too sweet. When you don't add sugar to the custard, it can be challenging to get the eggs really, really smooth and like free of streaks and little bits of white. So that's why I'm using the blender. If you don't want to use a blender, use a whisk and beat it really, really well. Start by beating the eggs, and then you can add everything else, but then I would strain it. So you'll just take out any little bits of egg. Because what ends up happening is when you cook it, you'll see like little tiny patches of where like the egg white didn't incorporate.
Why do you care?
I like it better because you get like more even absorption of the custard this way. Okay. So another thing to note is that this recipe, it behaves subtly different than other French toast recipes because there's no sugar in the custard. There's no like maple or honey or any kind of sweet ingredient in here. It's not going to really brown as much in the pan as a recipe that does include sugar, but again, we're adding that sugar on top. So you might not notice, but just something to be aware of. This is my Made In porcelain square baking dish. Great for soaking French toast in your custard. So I'm gonna add the custard to the baking dish. You just want something shallow where the bread can sit in an even layer. Once my bread is toasted, which should be very soon, I'm gonna grab it and bring it over, and then we wanna just let it sit in the custard and soak. Okay, I'm gonna grab the bread. The timer just went off and it smells and looks nicely toasted. So I'm gonna bring it over. If this bread were stale, I would also probably consider cutting off the crust for a more uniform texture. But the crust in this case, because the bread is fresh and it's gonna be more delicate, the crust does help to kind of keep the slice together. So I left it on. You can see these are nicely toasted. I'm gonna add them to my custard, kind of give them a turn. But these are just gonna sit in here and soak. And I'm gonna let this soak for like at least 20 minutes. I want the custard to really fully penetrate the bread and go all the way into the center. You can kind of spoon it over the top if you feel like you're not really confident that it's like soaking into that top layer. This is just gonna sit here for a little while. And in the meantime, I'm gonna bring the sugar and butter over to the stove, and I can get the griddle preheating when I think the bread's just about done. I have my Made In carbon steel griddle here. It's across 2 burners. So I'm gonna get a preheating on both, starting at like a medium heat because these are thick slices. And so the first side that I cook it on, I want that to cook a little bit more slowly so that I get full cooking of the eggs through the pieces of bread. I have kind of 2 zones for cooking because I have a burner here and a burner here. I'm gonna go in with my butter on both sides, and I'm gonna cook 2 and 2 in terms of the slices. You don't wanna burn the butter by cooking it too hot too quickly. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my sugar and I'm gonna sprinkle it across those buttered surfaces. I'm on just above medium, not even quite medium high. And it's the combination of that sugar and butter that's gonna give me this really caramelized surface on the bread. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it and using about half the sugar. And now I'm gonna take my slices. And one thing I like to do is when they've been sort of soaking on one side for a while, and again, these are pretty delicate, is I like to flip them so that the custard on the bottom actually like soaks through the bread down to the skillet because of gravity. So I'm gonna put this here. And I'm gonna do the same thing right next to it. So I put that over the sugared surface. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And I'm only doing 4 slices, but this, you could easily fit 6 or 8 on your griddle. So now I want to cook this on the first side until the sugar that it's in contact with on the griddle surface starts to caramelize. And one thing you can also do is once that egg sets, and it happens pretty quickly because I preheated it, you can kind of like scoot the bread around a little bit and help it pick up some of the sugar that it's not currently touching on the griddle. So like you can kind of like move it over here, like shift it around and help it really come into contact with all of that sugar. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this go. You can see I have little egg bits. Some people like my dad used to cook the leftover custard, which had like sugar and vanilla in it.
Chef snack.
That was never my thing. I don't really love like the sweet egg thing. I don't know. Oh yeah, it looks really good.
Can I sneak in there and see it? 'Cause it's just
Yeah.
kind of unfair for you to.
Yeah.
Tell you that it, yeah. I can lift up this corner.
Okay. Okay.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so they're getting nice browning on the first side. I'm gonna flip them. So this second side doesn't get sugar. I only caramelize one side and it's the first side, and that's because when you go to eat it, it's resting on a side and that side is gonna soften. So I'd rather focus on getting like one nice, hard, crackly shell of sugar on one side, like a creme brulee, rather than both, because it just kind of like disappears from the side that it rests on. I'm gonna turn them over and I want them to cook through now on the second side. Again, no sugar added. Yum.
Looks like French toast.
It's on the second side. I turned it down a little bit, so now it's on the slightly lower end of medium. Because again, I want the bread's thick, I want it to fully cook through. You can see that the bread has gained a little bit in volume, and that's because the eggs are cooking, so it's starting to souffle and puff back up after it had kind of like collapsed a little bit under the weight of the custard. And now I'm taking the remaining sugar and I'm sprinkling it on that first side, just trying to do it really evenly and dividing amongst the 4 slices. So once the French toast is fully cooked through, I'll turn it a second time, and it's gonna cook again on the surface, not because the custard needs to cook through, but because I wanna just caramelize that sugar. This is gonna depend on the dimensions of your slices. So maybe you feel like you don't quite need the 4 tablespoons of sugar for 4 slices, but maybe you have bigger slices and then more surface area and you wanna add some, so that's fine. So it's the second side that it's on right now where I'm not gonna have as much browning because there's still a little bit of sugar on the griddle, but not in the custard. If you check out the creme brulee episode over there, if you check out the creme brulee episode that I did, I caramelized the sugar twice on the surface, and that's how you build up that like nice crackly layer. Harris, that's, no.
Don't try this at home, please.
So this is nice and springy to the touch. There's like a little bit of spring back. So that's how I know that that egg in the inside is cooked. So what I'm gonna do is add my butter. And of course I can't really get it underneath, but you can kind of just like sprinkle it around. Do the same thing on this side. Let it kind of flow in between the slices. And now I'm gonna turn the pieces one more time. So back onto the first side so that the sugar caramelizes. And this is where I might wanna turn the heat up. Because again, it's already cooked. It's really just about making that caramel layer. Let's turn that heat up a little bit. So now it's on medium high. And don't walk away. This is where you really want to keep an eye on it because everything's already really hot. And so that sugar is going to caramelize. So we're going to keep an eye on it. And not a bad idea to grab your plates. And very importantly, when you go to serve it and like take it off of your griddle, you need to flip it. You don't want to serve it like just take it right off and transfer to a plate and it's going to stick to that caramel side. So I'm getting a little bit of smoke here. There's bubbling caramel on the edge. So I'm going to take a peek under there. Oh yeah, that looks so good. Okay. So I'm gonna turn that off. These are done. So now I'm gonna serve onto the serving plates. That's super hot, but again, flipping it so that the caramel lands up. Oh my gosh, look at how good that looks. Ow, it's so hot. And such even cooking because of the carbon steel. Beautiful. Like, gorgeous. What I love about this recipe is it's so straightforward and simple. And really what makes it is the cooking technique. And like, it's not too sweet, but it feels like super luxurious. And I love those thick slices because it gives you like so much textural contrast when you go from the caramel into the custardy bread. So we definitely want to let these cool a little bit before serving. So that caramel layer on top has to cool enough so that it's going to harden. So I'm going to be able to like tap it and you're going to be able to hear the kind of caramel sound. So we'll bring it back over and get it ready for serving. The top layers had a chance to cool, and I just want to point something out. There's like thicker layers of sugar on the edges of the bread because I was kind of shifting the French toast around on the griddle so it would pick up areas of more sugar on the margins. You hear that tap? That's where that sugar like really hardened and you get that crunchy layer. So I'm super excited to try it. It's not an overly sweet recipe at all, so I really think it's enhanced by a little bit of maple syrup. I don't like a lot of maple, I don't want to drench it, but I like just like a little drizzle all the way around. So I'm gonna try it. And I love how the fork kind of like hesitates on that top layer and then goes right through. I see that it has souffled. It's cooked through. I love how yellow it is because of all the yolks. And it's not liquid. I see that it's fully cooked, so that's what you want. And I'm just gonna eat it like this. The interior is not sweet. And also the caramel itself is not super sweet because we took it pretty dark. So just that little bit of maple is so good against the really subtle backdrop of like tiny bit of nutmeg and cinnamon. It feels so luxurious, but not too sweet. You could even use a little more maple syrup. So good. Great for the holidays, for cooking breakfast for people when you like want it to feel a little special. I highly recommend doing it on a made in carbon steel griddle. You can check out our other videos where you see I make breakfast for a crowd. You can do pancakes, you can do bacon, you can do all of it at the same time. Someone can't eat 2 eggs, 3 pancakes, and 2 slices of bacon? They can?
Is that a challenge?
All right, we're gonna cook more eggs. So I wanna thank our friends at Made In for sponsoring this episode. Check out the link below. You can take a look at their carbon steel griddle. It makes a great gift along with a variety of all of their other cookware. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy holidays.